My hope is that the systems actually start to flip, whereas currently right now in access control and with smart locks, when you go to a building, you're typically going, if you're supposed to be, either with a card or a fob, or now we're starting to see mobile, that's given to you. And it's not really an identifier of you. It's just that you happen to have that. And then the system responds when I show you that card. It lets you in if you're supposed to, or it keeps you out if you're not. What I believe will start to happen is I'm going to start to show up as things go more digital and express myself to the building, and it'll be authenticated. And based off of policy and the systems being able to make decisions both at the edge and in the cloud, so a hybrid approach, not cloud or on-site, but hybrid, I can then make decisions whether you should have access or not. So the way that the system works completely flips versus me bringing the identity that was given. I now bring my identity, and instead of me more or less responding to the system responds to me.
Let's say in the year 2040, as we move forward, information becomes the new gold, and it becomes the new, it's something to be monetized. We see that now, and it will just be doubly, triply so. So compliance then becomes a key issue because we have to manage the information as it becomes more available and accessible.
I think a lot of people are naive in the amount of information companies, being the social media or whoever, have about you. And I think rules that, such as GDPR that they launched in Europe a couple of years ago, similar rules will become adopted worldwide because citizens will not accept that they're monitored and tracked by all kinds of companies left and right to know everything about you and sell the information to others. Privacy in general will absolutely become more and more important, and something that we need to be sensitive to as an industry to make sure we are clear what the capabilities we provide and limit capabilities that would not be beneficial when it comes to privacy.
I do think as we progress into the future, it'll absolutely become almost totally frictionless by the time we get to 2040, because at that point, I think people will have also accepted and adopted the digital identity. I think that's going to be the big thing of the future, which is, right now there's a lot of questions and concerns, around people's general concerns, privacy concerns, all of those types of things. But over time, I think the digital identity and everything will always go back to the identity of people, right? And that's the only way you can get to a frictionless environment, is really being able to verify the identity and doing that through some digital format. And that will allow things to become totally frictionless, and then really allow further evolution of our industry.
Self-sovereign identity is, the new identity paradigm born in the 2020s, right? So this is really gaining traction as of the 2020s. And in this new paradigm, we basically just flipped the paradigm on its head, which is you as the user now are central to the system. What it means is, just imagine you, the user, owning and controlling your own information, your own personal identity information. Oh, and by the way, you create your own digital identifier, right? So that user ID, account number, what have you, we would call what we would create decentralized ID, or DID, right? And that DID identifies you and you alone, and you can attach all of your personal identity information. So consider that like a user profile that you own and control. And now picture being able to use this user profile that you store yourself and control to be able to seamlessly access, virtual spaces and physical spaces, right? Because you're able to assert your identity across all digital platforms using that one profile. Service providers are able to get identity information from you needed to provide that service, right?
So one of the things that I'm really interested is this concept of self-sovereign identity and decentralized identity. And that just basically means that the person whose identity it is, or the organization whose identity is, actually owns their own identity and has control over how their identity is going to be used. We're seeing right now some emerging tech that's coming out in access control, where there are cards that are available to that hold your identity, and it's encrypted, and then the use of a biometric with that card will unlock the identity information, but the card holder holds all of the identity information. And I think that's going to push the physical security industry outside of its comfort zone in learning how to address these kinds of concepts, right, when it comes to access control. Because I do think that, you know, we're trending towards individuals wanting to take back some control over their identity, especially with all of the data breaches that we're seeing happen globally.
And the question is, do you just continue to beef up your cybersecurity and compliance departments and spend money on that and face the legal jeopardy of the fines associated with all these privacy laws as most jurisdiction and countries start to protect their citizens' right to their data? Or do you find a way to provide your services without taking any of those risks by letting consumers store their own data? And I should clarify, when I say consumers store their own data, I mean PII data, personal identity information data. That's like, you know, your name, date of birth, social security number, credit card info, things like that. But usage data that has business value, analytics and metrics, the company can still hold. It's just DID'd, right? We already do this for medical records today, you know, under HIPAA. Here you're really doing it in an elegant way where you have access to the PII. The data is ID'd so long as the user permissions it. So I just want to drive that point home that, you know, companies aren't really losing anything. On the front end, it all looks the same. It's just the back end. Instead of storing everything in one honeypot, one central database, it's being decentralized.
So I'm hoping in 2040, we talk about more integration, operationalization of data privacy policy with business rules, and sort of what those automation will look like. Then talk about, okay, you know, let's be all smart. Let's not, you know, doing this baseline education 101. Please minimize your data connection. Please really look at what you need to collect before you collect and things like that. We are really at the thing, like right now we are more like think before you do. I'm hoping by 2040 we are not doing that anymore. We're doing is, as you're doing it, you have a constant checking, and that you don't need to worry about that you're doing the wrong thing, because from the get-go you are doing the right thing.
That's actually going to be one of the biggest problems is privacy and ethics. And so to what degree do I give up my rights to privacy in order to be more secure, or do I actually protect my rights and give up some sense of security? Essentially their technology exists today to be able to track me in almost everything I do. And so in 15 years time, that's going to be even easier to do, and not only broader like anywhere in the world, but also much deeper. Almost any interaction, any digital interaction I have, somebody would be able to track and make sense of it. So privacy essentially goes away. So what safeguards could put in there, and what is important for me to keep private will be a big question. I need to figure out what is truly private.